Hey folks, it's Nick over Outdoor Theory, and today we're just going to do a quick little video about axe maintenance. I brought two axes with me today. I'll talk a little bit about what I use them for and why I like them, and then how to sharpen them and how to maintain the handles. So stay tuned, I hope you enjoy. Okay folks, so I brought two axes with me today, and both these axes are from SA Wetterlings. I mean, their forge is one of the oldest forges still in business today, although their axes are not readily available anymore. I think they're only available through their company store. The first axe I have is probably most closely related to their hunter's axe. It's a 15.5-inch handle, 2-pound head, just great, general purpose axe. It fits great in a backpack. I put this in my Frost River backpack all the time, and it fits in there well, and I use this one most often, and I've had this one the longest. This axe right here is a little unique. This is actually the Les Stroud Bushman axe, and when I bought it, I basically got it because I felt it was unique compared to what else was out there. The handle's longer. I believe this is a 22-inch handle. And the head has a unique design too. You can see that it has a great area here to choke up on for fine carving, and then the pole is a little bit, uniquely designed also. Great for hammering in tent stakes. The handle is just a very straight design. In my opinion, very similar to what you would find on a tomahawk. So I picked this one up. I don't use this one as often. I do really like the blade design on this. I like the fact how I can choke up on it, but it's a little awkward for carving because of the length of the handle. I think that this head, if it was maybe more on a handle this length, would be ideal. So eventually I might rehang this axe. I don't know. Like I said, I do use it from time to time. I think it splits wood well. Although when you're using axes in this length area, you want to make sure that if you are splitting wood, you're doing it kneeling down. It's really not made for that, but both these axes have a nice sharp edge on it, and we'll discuss a little bit about what I use or what I do to sharpen these axes. Okay, so the main tool that I use to sharpen these axes is this Lanky puck. And this is pretty common when you look at either like axe sharpening or tool sharpening, and it basically has a coarse side and it has a fine side. Now these are relatively inexpensive, and I find these are perfect for sharpening your axes. I do use on this the Lanky Nathan's Natural Honing Oil, but in hindsight, if I were to buy another puck, I would probably just use this with water. Mainly because if I do carry this in my pack, I don't want to have to carry the honing oil also. So I would generally use this with water to sharpen the axes with. Now, if I'm going to sharpen my axe, and let's say both these have a good edge on them now, but if they were dull, you'd start out with your coarse side here, and what you do, take a little honing oil. I like to put a good amount in there, and I'm just going to work it into the stone with my fingers. And what I do is I take my axe, and the first way I'm going to do it is with the handle up on my neck, and I look down the edge, and I get the stone on the proper angle for my sharpening, and nice circular motions. So I'll work the one side of the edge, and what you want to do is you want to be really making a burr on that edge. And then you're going to flip it over. Same thing, I'm usually doing this sitting down, and I'll have it in my lap, similar to this. And I'm going to look right down the edge. Same thing, try to replicate that same angle. When I'm done with the coarse side, I'm going to flip it over to the fine side. Less oil, don't need much, just a little bit there. I'm working it with my finger. And I'm going to do the same process. I'm just going to basically right down the edge. Flip it around, right down the edge. Now I'll go back and forth until I feel like I have a decent edge on there. Like I said, this axe already was shaving sharp. And if I wanted to be real meticulous, I will take a leather strop and finish it off. But as far as just getting the edge on there or revitalizing an older axe, if you have one that's really beat up and old, you might have to take a file to it to at least get your edge profile. But these Lanky pucks really do a great job of putting that final edge on and making it sharp enough for, you know, your base task, chopping wood, you know, carving, you know, any basic task along those lines. Okay folks, as far as maintaining the handles on your axes, and both these handles are made from hickory, I use boiled linseed oil. And this is something I picked up at Lowe's, and you don't need a whole lot. This can here I've had for a very long time, and what you want to do is you just want to get a rag and you want to take your linseed oil and you want to wipe it into your axes. I'll then follow up with a clean rag and wipe off any excess so it doesn't become sticky, and I'll try to do that like once a month. Neither of these handles I've maintained in quite some time, so they're going to absorb a lot more of that linseed oil, but over time you build up the oil into the wood, and that's going to help keep these hickory handles from, you know, like splitting or getting nasty. So that's why I like to use the linseed oil. Now, one thing you have to be careful with your linseed oil is the rag. You have to be very careful when you dispose of it because it can spontaneously combust. Linseed oil in the rag can generate some heat, and if it's enough to make it ignite, you just don't want to have a fire in your garbage can. So just make sure that when you're done with the linseed oil that you either dispose of this properly in a well ventilated area, or I'll tend to throw it in a fire pit and just light it on fire to make sure it's done. So let's take a little bit of oil. I'll get some oil in the rag. I'll kind of mush it in there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my sheath off. Put it to the side. Just be conscious of where you have the edge while you're maintaining your handle. You're just going to rub the oil into that axe. And make sure you get all areas. Up along the head, you want to get the end here. Make sure you get that end grain, because that's going to be, you know, one of the spots that you can get a lot of moisture. Plus, when you're carrying this in your backpack, if it's exposed, you can get, you know, it's going to come in contact with the ground a lot or snow. So you just want to make sure you maintain that well. Just want to wipe it in there good. Let it soak in. And what I'll generally do is I'll do both the axes at the same time. I'm going to put some more oil in here. Like I said, these haven't been maintained in some time. Same thing, I'm going to rub that right in. Get the top. And we're just going to let that soak in for a little while. Now, while that's soaking in, we can talk about maintaining your blade also. And depends on what you're using your axe for. If you're using your axe to, you know, for instance, like I would use something like this to butcher deer with. It's a great tool to get, you know, the skin to separate from, or the hide to separate from the carcass. And if I'm going to use this for any kind of meat processing, I'm going to use either something like a vegetable oil or a food grade oil on the actual head of the axe to keep it from rusting or keep corrosion off it. If you're not using it for any kind of meat or any kind of food purposes, you know, you can use, like, you know, some rem oil or any kind of oil on there to just keep the rust and corrosion off of the heads. I didn't bring any with me today, but, you know, these heads are relatively rust free. And when I get home, I'll probably just give them a quick little maintenance. You know, one thing I will say, if you don't own an axe currently and you were thinking about picking one up, my first suggestion would be get something in that like 16 to 18 inch handle with, you know, a 1 3/4 to 2 pound head. I feel that that's a perfect axe for your hikers, your campers, your hunters, people who need something that's small enough to take with them and move around, but still has, you know, like a good usability. If you're really looking for something that's going to be chopping down wood or, you know, bucking logs, just get yourself a forest axe. Get something that's, you know, a 20-inch handle, 22-inch handle, 24-inch handle, maybe a little bit heavier head. It'll just give you more leverage and a little bit more power in your swing. But like I said, something that's about this size would be perfect. You know, you think about your grandsters like small forest axe or hunter's axe. Those are, you know, very common and very popular with your, you know, your axe folks. But like I said, I've had this one for some time, and you grow very attached to them, and that's why I don't own any, or at least that axe, but I do like that small forest axe, and maybe one day I'll pick one up just as a substitute. But just like any other tool, I mean, these, if you maintain your axe properly, these will last you the rest of your life. You'll have it forever. So like I said, it's worth your time to make sure you maintain them well, and like I said, you become very fond of them, very attached to them, and I just love owning them. I think there's some nostalgia to carrying an axe, and you know, it's only as good, the tool is only as good as well you know how to use it. So just make sure that when you are afield, you are using your axe, and lose sometimes of your blade or your main knife that you might carry. If anything, a knife will help you maintain your blade a little bit better, or not, you know, really beat up your knife, because yes, a knife can split wood, a knife can do some of these common tasks, but you know, you're going to put it through a lot more abuse than you will an axe. That's really what the purpose of this is for. Okay, so now that we've let this linseed oil soak in for some time, I like to take a dry rag and wipe off the excess. Now, if you find that your axe handles have soaked up a ton of the oil, by all means, you know, take your wet rag still, or the rag that you have the oil in, and hit them again. You know, you might, especially if you have a brand new axe, you might do this every day for like a week. You know, every day you're going to oil it, every day you're going to oil it. And then once it builds up a good base in the axe handle, then you might do this once a month just to maintain it. So I got some dry rags here. I'll take one of these. And like I said, I'm just going to wipe off that excess. And why I'm doing this is I don't want any excess oil to be on there and then build up like a sticky, like a film on it, or something that's going to be a little sticky on the handle. So, you know, just give it a good wipe down. You don't have to go crazy here. And then just make sure you put your sheath back on to be safe. Same thing with this one. We're just going to wipe it off. We got our sheath back on there, so we're safe. So, you know, I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can perform your maintenance on your axes. There's a lot of different products you can use. So by all means, I encourage you guys to leave comments on how you maintain your axes and what products you might use. This is just how I do it, and I will tell you that the axe community is a very opinionated bunch. So I expect there to be a lot of you know, conflicting or different opinions on what to do and how to maintain your blades. But you know, this is what I do, and it seems to work out well for me. But I welcome all your comments, and because it's just going to benefit the community as a whole. So leave your comments. If you got any value out of this video, please like and share and subscribe to my channel, and I'll have more videos like this in the future. Thank you very much.